clubpod.co, clubpod.co, clubpod.co. Okay!
Hi folks, this is probably about the 10th time I've recorded this because people keep walking past and chatting. Because I'm in the woods and I'm walking the dogs. Let's see. So this is for my podcast for the old clubpod.co. That's clubpod.co, not to be associated with any other groups or anything who claim to be Club Pod. This is just me. Today I'm going to talk about the dark side of the app, the ClubHouse app, which at the moment is iPhone only and invite only, and I'm not sure if it's available in every country yet. Now, the problem with it is that I've noticed, and I've only been on it less than a week, maybe 3 or 4 days, I'm not sure when it started. The problem I see is some groups have grown very quick with people who, there we go, someone's cycling past. This is trouble when you're doing it outdoors. Hang on. Hi. Cheers. Now the trouble is, you've got people who seem to be growing rapidly with the groups and getting people to follow them. It gives them a lot of legitimacy and power. And yes, they'll probably have on the Instagram pictures of them with celebs or famous people, which you might think that also gives people a sort of legitimacy. But I'd be very careful, mainly because in the old days, people would set up, we're going back, 20 years. Some of the first sites I ever saw were people there'd be like a single page or 2-page namby-pamby website offering to sell you a PDF of whatever nonsense, self-motivation and all this gunk. And they probably sold a few copies. But the trouble is, this platform gives them access to thousands of people. Just imagine when it becomes open and everyone can access it. You're going to have people who are going to be listening to this who are vulnerable. And in fact, to be honest, I think a lot of people are listening to this and thinking, these people are going to help them make money. And they're there growing these groups quickly. And they usually, when you log in, they're at the top. And it's not just, they do it on all sorts, including podcasting sites, with podcasting groups. I've seen some of them and I've talked about it, so I'm just putting the dogs in the lead, where people are just, they go on hoping to get advice, and the advice seems to be, my company will do that for you, don't bother, we'll do it, you're great. And it's all that fake emotion rubbish, where everyone's saying I love you and we're in a safe space, all this codswallop, which is usually, when you hear that, you just know it's never really that trustworthy. There's a lot, people fake this pretense, you're wonderful. They're telling each other how wonderful they are. Oh gosh, look at this person's Instagram. They're promoting each other. Brown nosing as well. There's a lot of brown nosing. Now, this all sort of legitimises these people. And because there's a problem with these groups, you have to wave your hand. It means they're not going to allow people to make any criticism of them and point out any dodgy doings. So the only thing they've got is it's a singular voice basically saying how wonderful their system is, and that's a danger. And obviously it can ban people, so even if you did manage to get through, chances are you'll be banned from that group and you can never hear from them again. Okay, I'm just walking across the road now, so I'll just give it a minute or two. I probably can't be bothered editing this out, so we're just walking across. they're doing roadworks again. There we go. Crossing the road. If I remember, I'll edit this out, but I'm not sure. I'll be editing it a lot later in the day. By then I might have forgotten what to edit out. So hopefully you can hear me now because I've just crossed the road. So the danger of these trucks are pulling up. The danger of these big groups is quite obvious. You can become quite powerful and simply censor everybody who objects to you or points anything out. And it tends to be a case of everyone brown noses the moderators anyway. And they grow and grow because every time they go on, they say, follow me, and follow the other mods. So you get this, it legitimises them more and more. It's a bit like when I argue this about local councils and politicians in general. Because you vote for them, it legitimises them. Even if they win, nobody's voting and they get even just 10 votes. The fact that they've been voted in by just 10 votes gives them a legitimacy to say, I'm all powerful. It's why it's the downside of democracy. So here we have a situation where you've got people who are they're wanting you to pay them money clearly, and they can claim they're big, and you don't know if they are, but nobody's going to object to them. They come looking flash, and that's what people want to see. And this is how people are vulnerable get suckered in. I've seen this over the years. They get they're promised a lot, and it's just giving them cash. As long as you give them cash, then they'll be your friends. And by the way, this is a little side note. If anyone wants to become a billionaire or a millionaire thinking it's going to improve their lives, it generally doesn't, because all that happens is people are hanging around with you then, only doing so for the money. It's a bit like a lot of these big businesses, men and women. The truth is, you can see a lot of them are depressed because they don't really have friends, because the people who hang around them are just yes men or yes women who just want to sponge off them. It's why you get millionaires. I mean, people who win the lottery usually end up depressed because they lose their friends once they win, and the people who hang about them aren't really their friends, and they think that it's going to make them, give them some sort of feeling of worth, which they don't. I remember years ago when the national lottery in the UK first started, and this woman, she was basically a skit rat. She'd looked like she smoked for years and drank for years, and she had this badly purplish, cheap, home permed, dyed hair. She didn't look well at all. I mean, she probably was older, she was probably younger than she looked. And her very words were, now I'm going to become upper class. And that's sad. It's sad because that's what she thought. She was going to be in the grounds of rich people, people who've got class and things. She wouldn't be. She'd be rejected without ease. I mean, the only people going to have her around are after her cash. And as long as she keeps paying them, she'll have all the friends in the world. And this is the trouble. It doesn't change people. And you can almost, whenever you listen to somebody who's a millionaire or something, a business person, and wanting more and more, You can almost hear it in the voices, the depression, because they don't have much. One of them I always listen to runs one of these shows. He has an attitude towards people with degrees because he hasn't got one. And basically people come on and they might not have any money, but because they've got a degree, they've got more feeling of self-worth than this guy has for all the money he's got. And I guarantee it, I could give you every penny in the world and you still won't feel better about yourself. So when you go onto these self-help groups, don't bother. I mean, it's a bit like the ones that tell you they offer to make you, inspirational and all this garbage, where they tell you, tell yourself every day that you're a wonderful person, all this. It does for a second. It's like a temporary stopgap. You'll feel good about yourself for about a minute and then you'll feel lousy again. It's unlikely it'll improve your life. In fact, I've never heard anybody successful. There we go, someone's walking past. Sorry. Dun, 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 dun. That's it. I think I'm walking past them. Just a few people around. Again, if I remember, I'll edit this out, but I'm probably too lazy. Okay, I'm back again. Now, people who are successful, I've never heard them say they got success because they did these self-help things. The only people I've ever heard made money from self-help is the people selling it. It's just, I'd avoid it. But people do, they'll be suckered in. They'll see these people on these groups and they'll go, oh, that guy's got 100,000 or maybe even 1 million followers, and he claims he'll have CEO and founder. These are just buzzwords, they're meaningless. It's just to up themselves. It doesn't impress me at all. I've had people, you see, let me explain how cons work, and this is why people get suckered in. I always tell, there's a place near me where they call it Millionaire's Row, and if you go down it, it's full. Oh, there's a little cat there, sorry. Hello, sweet. It's full of people who are extremely rich and the business people. I was going to put the dogs in the lead, but I forgot the idea on. Now, there's a joke, and you'll hear it. People who are rich and know what they're doing will not be driving in big fancy cars. They drive scrappy little cars because they're not bothered about showing off wealth. Everything to them matters financially, and they always question everything. And this is a little tip for you guys. If you want to make money, you don't go out and spend huge money on cars. It's just money down the pit. Rich people, really rich, the ones that have built it up, know the value of cash. And when you go down these houses, and they're massive houses, but they see them as an investment. They're not doing it to show off. All the cars in the outside, I've seen them with like an old Mini. But you see, it's cheap for them. They're running around, they don't need to feel important. And that's the key. See, one of the things you'll find is people who make money really do. They don't need to feel important. It's not about doing that. It's because then they don't get suckered in. The ones that lose money are the ones that have to feel important. So they'll go out and buy the fanciest cars. And I never get impressed by someone who's driving a fancy car. It doesn't interest me. Because to me they just don't know. They're not spending money wisely. So I've got a runny nose now, it's getting cold, not the COVID. And it was something an accountant told me years ago, and he made it clear. He said that the people he looks after, the successful ones, do not have fancy cars. And he laughed. He said it's the idiots who go out buying cars just to feel big about themselves. and they're the ones who suck themselves in. So the trouble is, you see, they sell you this idea about this great lifestyle, about driving the car. They'll tell you these tricks. They'll say, imagine yourself driving the car of your dreams, blah blah blah, and it suckers you in and you want to join up and pay this money. Forget it. Now this group, the reason I realised this group was a bit dangerous. Now the first thing to do, I'm not sure I've said it this week, is that the big danger of ClubHouse at the moment is it's quite clear that if a group gets huge, thousands of followers, I mean, don't forget, this is the early stages. Some of these could get millions of people listening. I mean, they could have, in reality, a bigger audience than the most popular TV show in history, because you could have people worldwide listening live. It'll just, you could in theory have, unless there is a limit, I don't know if they do limit the numbers of people listening, but there is a possibility you're going to have groups, sorry the mic's moving, you're going to have groups where millions of people are going to be listening and being influenced. Now what does that mean? Well, the most obvious problem there is you're going to have people no one's going to be able to speak unless you pay. I mean, you know, people who are, and I can see this, the ideal will be build up these groups and then charge people to speak or become, maybe even moderators, because once you do that, it's a bit like on Instagram where influencers will take big chunks of cash to promote another Instagram account, because obviously people will click on it and it'll grow that account, and that's what this will do. And because at the moment you've got your Twitter and Instagram linked, that gives you a three-way split on the possibilities. So you'll be growing your audience on, so I've got a really runny nose now, you'll be growing your audience on ClubHouse, plus you've got chance of growing your audience on Instagram and Twitter. So it'll become worthwhile for people to give £1,000, maybe even £1 million in some cases, just to become a speaker for 5 minutes. And this sort of destroys the legitimacy, because if these groups keep popping up at the top, it means anybody can go on and say blah blah blah, send me your money, who may just be after a quick buck. Now today, and this concerned me, they're supposed to be a big business group, this influential one had a psychic on. Now that should be, I mean, I wondered how they got put a psychic on and the reason why. Because psychics they fish. They do what sales reps, what I used to do, and this is how I know it's so easy to do. What you do is you ask basic questions and fish for answers. So today I was listening, I mean, she was fairly obvious and she wasn't very good. She asked one of the most simple ones, which is, do you know somebody having a birthday soon? And most cases people are going to say yeah. In this case she didn't. I mean, she was actually off by everything. And then they always have a reason why they ask that question. Oh, I've got an excuse. And they quickly go on to the next question. It's very quick and very fast, but you can usually guess from people certain things. So I'll give you an example. Years ago, the UK was quite easy, because oh crikey, my zip's undone. If you was a certain age, the chances are, if somebody who's died, say your grandparents died, they would just pouring a can of drink water out. They would have there would be a chance of the name being, well, let's say Phoebe, Margaret, or something like that. It was quite common to see. Margaret was quite common. These, and by location and age, you can roughly guess what the grandparents' names are. So you'd say things like, you fish, you'd say, have you got somebody begin with M? Now, if the most common name is Margaret, you'd hit M first for that age group. Now these days it's a bit more awkward because everyone's got some bizarre names, but you can guess what by just, you have to generalise. It's a bit like, I'll explain like when I was doing sales door to door. You walk down the street and you can usually do this anywhere. Anyone can do this. It's no talent. Sorry, that's got in there. Now you can work out if as you walk past the house, if it's an elderly couple, someone young, someone with kids. I mean, the most obvious one is if you're in the UK, if you see a nice little tidy garden and there's net curtains, you can generalise that's an elderly person. And if it's somebody with toys in the garden, well, obviously they've got kids. And if they're a bit bust up and everything's looking a bit tatty, you can generalise that they're not working. And you can carry this on. I mean, you could even, I was selling this television firm, and they've gone bust now, I think, because they credit checked everyone and they'd messed up on a few things. Anyway, one of the things that was easy was, one of the packages was a football package, and all I had to do was look up, and if you saw in the UK, people who are into football usually have something in the window, say a scarf or something. And if you saw this football scarf, that was it. Sold. I mean, I just walk in and that's the first thing I talk about. In fact, I just talk about football. And they go, oh, we're into football. And you go, oh, yeah, I didn't know that. You see what I mean? It's not difficult. You can generalise people very easily. People think they're individuals, but most people, you can see it. There's a pattern in the cloning. Most people do the same things, even though they think they're individuals, and do the, individualism isn't as great as people think. And there's also a few tricks you can do. Anyway, but this is what concerned me. They had somebody on, and she was talking. And she was saying, oh, blah, 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 they're this psychic. Now, when you're talking to people, they're vulnerable. And it shows you what the sort of people are in this group, vulnerable people. Because people who go along with psychic stuff are vulnerable. They want to believe. Doesn't matter if there's evidence to prove psychics don't do anything but con you. It's the want to believe. It's a huge belief in, they will believe in psychics regardless. And because of that, they'll go along with it. And that's why such groups are dangerous, because they want to believe that there's people there who have the magic answers to make them rich or improve their lives. So they want to believe that there's people there who, if you follow them and brown nose them and go along with whatever rhetoric they say, then things will work for them. And it's really just, it's dodgy. So I was listening, a lot of these, and why it concerns me is that a lot of them are just saying, well, you follow, the first things they say is, follow the moderators. That's a warning sign. Because it's just to build everything up. The aim of these groups, I suspect, if they're not stupid, is to make them as big as they can early, so that they've got the audience, so that in months to come, when everyone comes online, they'll be on the top and they can demand the most. So if ClubHouse is going to succeed, that is something they're going to have to deal with, because you don't really want these people who are just there to build up a huge audience. And it's going to be incredibly huge for people, because if you use a TV firm right now or a radio show, if you've got any sense, you go straight onto ClubHouse. In fact, this is the reason why I'm including ClubHouse in these podcasts, because if anyone who's really got any sense, you want to get on ClubHouse now. I'm going to start building up a little audience, because you could, especially if you're a decent presenter, this is going to be where, unlike at the moment, you might have 1,000 or 100,000 downloads. You could be possibly talking to 1 million people live, maybe more, several million, depending if this app will allow that. You're basically going to be a radio presenter to an audience that even the biggest DJ ever in history in any country could only have dreamt of, and that will be well, it'll be huge. And just imagine the advertising of the power that gives you. People, even somebody who's pretty rubbish doing the podcast or presenting, if they get enough followers, they could basically, they're going to demand huge money in advertising if the app allows it. I mean, that'll be, you're going to imagine how many firms will want to come and talk, even if it's just 30 seconds peak time on your show. It's costing you nothing basically to do, maybe 10 minutes of your time, well, a couple of hours probably, a day or a week or whatever. I mean, you're going to end up with, this is going to be a whole new platform for producers. However, there is the other flip side. Somebody said today we know that other versions coming out, such as Twitter doing theirs, they're running theirs. Now this person said there's about 30 clones coming out. Now if you're in the media and a TV company, you make sense to run your own, and I can see that. This is going to be, that could be the danger of ClubHouse. I mean, it could just die tomorrow, especially if people are seeing some of the clubs just as dodgy places for dodgy people to flog garbage. Sorry, I'm sniffing a lot. So, oh dear, this is a whole new medium. It's going to be very interesting how this approaches. I did call it podcasting 3.0, but it is in itself, it's the next stage from radio and whatnot. It may be we'll see a visual version as well, so you could set up your own TV studio, and obviously you see it's a bit like, I mean, this is why it's like a radio and a TV station. You have one presenter or a few presenters and a huge audience, and you can choose if you want to let the audience chat or not. But in a lot of cases, if you want someone entertaining, people aren't going to want to ask questions, they're going to want to enjoy listening. It might make you a bit ego boost to chat to some famous person, but did you have dinner today? There's not much. I have heard people say rubbish like that. But yeah, let's see how this progresses, folks. But you can see, if this does take off, I mean, the danger, like I say, is others come along and swipe the idea and do it better. Because let's face it, right now, if you've got a few quid spare, a few million, investing in setting up your own version of this would be profitable, I'd imagine. And if you're a TV company, my goodness, I think any TV company would be daft not to make their own. Because the thing is, there might be clones of it, like WordPress, that's open source. There could be open source versions of this which may be a danger to this app, even if they're just online only, web based. Because I could see, I mean, if I was wanting to do a TV station now, I'd do something like this, or a radio show, but I don't think I wouldn't want to be on the app with others, if you see what I mean. I'd want the app itself or the website just to be, be like whatever TV station you've got. I mean, you could see it like this is what I'd imagine you could have it as if you was a TV station. Let's say you've got 10 channels, these American ones where you've got several stations. Will that be your website? You could log into watching different ones, and you could, the reality is you could, in theory, do it so you could set up as many as you want. I mean, you could see the possibilities. Anyway, folks, that's my rambling. But yeah, there's a dark side to this. But I don't mean it's all. I mean, the app itself's a great thing. But I do when I was listening to this podcast, and I've heard it several. I mean, there's a lot of them that do give good advice on the podcast things, or they just chat in general. I listened to one podcast last night, and I'm going to try and listen to as many as I can and work out what the best ones are and who to listen to. Because some are they're just pointless. I was listening to a few where people are just saying, I'm going to start this podcast, and they're talking as if they're starting a new TV station with £1 billion worth of money. I think that a lot of people thinking that they'll launch it and they're going to get millions of listeners day one, and they're going to get quite depressed. And I don't think anyone's telling them it's not going to be as easy as you think. It'll take a while to build up. The trouble is, the way everyone's doing it, gosh. Be careful if you think it's going to be easy, because you're probably going to be doing the same podcast type show as everyone else without the anyway, I'll just leave it there. But I'll see if I probably won't edit this, I'll probably forgotten, but we'll see. Ciao for now, bye.
ClubHouse.co, ClubHouse.co, ClubHouse.co.